What isn't like it is in the movies. Car accidents. People don't just lightly bleed from their heads then die, they are some of the goriest, most traumatic deaths I've seen outside of combat footage. On the other hand, most fender benders don't result in an explosion. Except that Ford Pinto in Top Secret. Laughed my ass off. I mean, just taking a quick scroll through some crashes is horrifying. There was once a car crash on my street. The car was split in half. Like, fucking split in half. No survivors, full car of 3 kids and 2 adults. And just imagining what would have happened to their bodies if it did that much damage to the car is just, God. Carrying an unconscious person. Found out the hard way when my wife was sick and fainted. An unconscious body is surprisingly limp and slippery. Try to lift them by the armpits? Nope. That just makes the arms flail and they'll slip right through your fingers. Try to lift them from under the knees and around the back? Nope. Their back won't stay stiff enough and their ass will just sink to the floor. Not to mention their head is rolling around the whole time. This is why the fireman's carry exists and has to be trained. It's surprisingly hard to pick up a body. You're right, but I'm a fireman and we never use or even train that. It's just too hard to stand up a limp body even with perfect techniques, so we typically use webbing/rope to drag victims or other carries. Plus you don't want to lift a person up into the hot smoke in a fire. I had a GF pass out from low sugar once. She had dropped a glass trying to drink some juice and then fell on the shards. I had to pull glass out of her ass cheek. Anyways, she was little, I am big. The adrenaline rush and our sizes made it possible to pick her up and carry her for a few seconds. But I tried to carry her again another time when she was a drunk mess and found out where the term dead weight came from. TLDR. Agree. In movies they never say goodbye on the phone, they just hang up. Yeah, where's the realistic bye from both sides? They never say when or where for the meetups either. You wanna go okay a date? Yes. Okay walks away to celebrate. Walking into a bar and the news is showing a story about your exact situation. Hey, are you watching the news? The other person turns on the TV and the reporter is explaining everything from the beginning. Local man walks into a bar, more at 11. Fuck, guess I'll have a drink then, it's only 9. Driving. Unlike in the movies, you really have to pay attention to the road. Parking too, it's very rare to get a space just outside where you need to be. I always stare at my passenger for extended periods while we converse just to see how long it takes for them to panic. On an unrelated note, does anyone have any tips for when no one will sell you auto insurance anymore? Tires screeching every single stop and start. Michael Scott's driving in The Office was very realistic. Always thought it was funny how serious and focused he was on the road compared to in The Office. I found the Air Bud series really set unrealistic standards for dogs. John Oliver went into detail on this, but in Air Bud they have a case to decide who the dog belongs to. The grumpy clown actually owns the dog, but the judge says they should let the dog decide who to live with. The dog chooses the kid and then they arrest the original owner for some reason. Yeah, my dog has depression. Also, my dog doesn't know what basketball is. Air conditioning vents silently and easily being removed or put in. The Spy Museum in DC has an air vent you can crawl through, to show you how ridiculous it is. One of the loudest, most awkward, and uncomfortable modes of non-vehicular travel ever. Air conditioning vents that are large enough for an adult to crawl through, are spotlessly clean, are quiet enough for the hero to sneak through. In reality, the banging of you moving about would echo and be loud. Always go to a place in the building where the hero can get a view of what's going on without being spotted. Always have an exit in a convenient place with no bad guys. Edit, since everyone keeps mentioning it, can support the weight of a person. Even if they were large enough, clean enough, quiet enough. I would find every protruding screw and I would hit my damn head, causing me to yell loudly. Getting hit in the head. No, John, you won't wake up with a minor headache 10 minutes later, you'll wake up a decade later with a wheelchair. Street fights are deadly. It is never worth the risk over stupid pride, unless your life is in danger. I say this every time I see a thread like this. If you feel you must fight someone, go to the grass. All it takes is one bad fall on pavement, concrete, etc. to drastically alter your life, whether you're the person falling or you made the person fall. Greater than you'll wake up a decade later with a wheelchair. Also, people who have been in a coma don't just pull off their monitor leads and walk off looking for a nurse. You're looking at least a month of physical therapy if you're very lucky. Ripping out your 4 is a terrible idea. My pet peeve is just the opposite. Getting 4 access is so easy, just anyone can do it first try, even without a tourniquet and often nowhere near a vein, at an entirely ridiculous angle. Or how the patient came out of the coma, left the room to go find the person who wronged them or loved one without alerting any nurse, doctor, or security. Lol, what? Especially when it's been like 6 months and they are able to just jump up like their legs are just ready to work again. Access denied. Override. Oh okay. Since you put it that way, access granted. Do the thing. Greater than no. Sudo do the thing. Greater than fine. Hackerman. Enk1ndl is not in the sudoers file. This incident will be reported. This is actually a thing sometimes. I work in IT and there are system/situations where I'm told I can't do/access something, but then there's a prompt that lets me override/temporarily change settings/access but make a special log entry somewhere. Hacking. What? You don't just frantically type nonsense for a few minutes and all is good. Can you imagine the real thing? 20 minutes of typing okay. It looks like they are running this program and I exploited this vulnerability to get in. So you can get the info we need now? What? No, all I did was access the janitor's login account. Now I need to find a few more vulnerabilities to get a higher level account. Oh, and then you can get us the info we need? No, that's not on this system. You aren't even hacking the right system? I need this one to use in an attack on a later system. That one will let me change the tech support information to call me instead of their normal tech support. Then they will give me the info I need to put a keyboard logger on their system, which will give me access. Then you will have the info? No, then I can again work my way up to a better account that has the info. How long will all that take? A few months. I'll let you know when I'm in. This was some pretty good security. 6 months ago. Ha ha ha, I'm in. Basically, everything about guns, drywall and furniture don't stop bullets. Reloading is a thing. Please stop cocking your weapon to look cool. Half of your rounds are on the ground. And so many more. Also, simply handling a gun doesn't make that weird, muffled clickety sound it does in movies. If you pick up a firearm and it makes noise just moving it around, something is very wrong and you should not fire it. Similar with the swing sound of drawing a sword. Most scabbards were actually made of leather, thus were silent. Edit. According to replies, many of sheaths in history were also made of wood or had metal throats that could make an audible drawing sound, so my comment is not entirely true. My big peeve is suppressors. Digging a grave. Soil is much harder than what movies pretend. I dug a couple feet down for a garden bed and it took me a couple days of grueling work. 6 feet down in a couple hours in the night? GTFO of here. It's always so perfectly rectangle, with straight sides, dug by hand. Deleted. Taking matters into your own hands to defeat an entire group of criminals. Gran Torino had the most realistic depiction of this concept. Emo. It was an effective strategy, but it only works once. Living in a bad neighborhood. Most days nothing major happens. Yeah, exactly, people are too miserable to do anything. Same with prison. A former online friend told me prison is boring. He spent lots of time reading books, but they also had access to drugs. He is a meth head now, and made their own alcohol. Waking up. You do not wake up fully refreshed, dressed, hair done, and the blankets are still neat on the bed. Rose Tyler in Doctor Who had pretty realistic hair look after waking up. Can't be compared to mess I have after waking up, but still pretty accurate. Anna in Frozen woke up more relatable than any other movie ever out there, which is worse. I loved how Marvelous Mrs. Maisel showed the main character sneaking into and out of bed for her beauty care so she could wake up looking flawless. Talking on the phone. You mean you don't answer every call with just your last name and then hang up the moment the other person is done talking? I had a coworker that wouldn't say goodbye. He would say his point and just hang up. The amount of times I would just continue having a conversation just to find out I'm talking to myself. I told him about it. Next phone call he said goodbye, but it felt weird because I wasn't used to it. Came in to say this. The hang-ups without saying bye, the abnormally long pauses, the other person always answering on the first ring, someone's phone never just randomly ringing during a conversation. The one thing they do nail though is battery life being really close to either 0 or 100. Working in an office. I really question whether a screenwriter or director has worked a regular 9 to 5 office job a day in their lives. This why every movie or show the office worker is getting ready for the big meeting. It's because a lot of screenwriting is pitching a movie script to unreceptive producers or pitching story ideas to the showrunner of a TV show. The screenwriters are just writing what their job is like. Most office jobs, if a meeting went bad, we would have to have another meeting later that people prepared better for because the work still needs to get done. Office Space is actually pretty damn accurate for that work style. Watching Office Space as a teen, this is a comedy. Watching Office Space as an adult, this is a documentary. Breakfast in America, the mom makes a big spread with pancakes, bacon and eggs, all that stuff, just for someone to pick up a slice of toast and rush off. I'd be super pissed. Greater Than Breakfast in America. Sounds like an excellent album title. Someone should totally make one. Greater Than I'd Be Super Pissed. I used to feel this way, but as I've thought about it more, I realize that it's really on movie mom here. Making enough food to feed 12 people when there are only 4 people in your household is already a bad call, and you should ostensibly know what the flow of your mornings is like. If I made all this food, my wife would come downstairs and be like, "What the fuck did you make all this food for?" I eat a yogurt for breakfast every day. Teachers or people with low-paying jobs owning or renting massive houses/apartments. I like how Penny could afford her nice apartment on a Cheesecake Factory waitress paycheck. An apartment in the same building where Sheldon needed a roommate to cover the bills. Huge apartments with spectacular views in NYC for anyone who isn't wealthy. Or San Francisco. New Girl did it pretty well, I think, compared to most sitcoms. It's a large apartment, but there are always 4 to 6 people living there. It's supposed to be in a crappy neighborhood. It's run down with lots of things not working properly, and Schmidt covers a larger portion of the rent for some of the time, since he makes more money and is fine with doing it. Conversations. Really, in real life it is usually a lot of figuring out what the hell the actual, underlying, meaning is when someone is saying something. In movies, the scriptwriter came up with a solid quip for a response. And there's always a convenient outside interruption or cut whenever an awkward or profound moment comes up. I'll be watching like, oh shit, what are they going to say in response to that? Pause and cut to next scene. In reality, the conversation had to go somewhere. People talk a lot of fluff in real life, like hey, how are you? Etc. In films, folk just go straight to the point. Also in films, people arrange to meet but never fix the time/place, etc. Come on. I'll explain everything on the way. Suppressors and hand grenades. Suppressors, silencers, in movies are way too quiet, and sound like a staple gun going off. In reality, they make a gun quieter, but they very much still sound like a gun, and anyone around will still hear it. Grenades in movies always make a giant explosion with a fireball, that makes bad guys fly through a window or ragdoll across a field. In real life, they make a loud bang, and a puff of smoke. They just throw shrapnel everywhere and make people bleed profusely. That John Wick subway scene was ridiculous. Even if the guns were silent, bullets ricocheting around would make a bunch of noise. You don't really watch John Wick movies for realism. The lack of farts, peeing, and shitting. John Travolta took 2 shits in Pulp Fiction. 3. When Uma O'Dead, when the coffee shop got robbed and when he died. I pretend they do that shit off screen between cuts. Sex. After a long lovemaking session, in a bed, in private they both have underwear on. Going in dry and the woman finishes in 11 seconds lol. My favorite is when they finish fucking then get dressed and run off to do something, or just roll over and sleep. No cleanup? Yikes. CPR. It's that trope that causalities in the movies always come around at the very point during CPR that the other's characters are all giving up on them surviving. The chances of someone recovering from chest compressions and breaths alone are very slim. It's the critical intervention of a defibrillator that gives the casualty the greatest chance of survival. Came here to say chest compressions. If you're doing them right, you're hearing the horrific sounds of cracking ribs and popping cartilage. You're pushing their fucking sternum 2 inches into their chest. Thought for sure this would be the top answer. Also, you can't just defib anybody. A completely stopped heart can't be shocked back to life. Chest compressions do that. And if you do get a pulse back, the person is more than likely still going to be unconscious. They don't just pop back up ready to walk around. No pulse, greater than chest compressions, greater than deep gasp, looks around, greater than hey, you feeling hungry? I know a great pizza place. Blackjack dealers are not sleight of hand masters with the ability to magic up wins. They are as surprised at the cards coming out as anyone. My brother works at a casino. I joke with him all the time that I know the security rooms have levers to pick who wins at blackjack. They do. It's not levers, and it's always the casino. Lol. And every craps table you see in a movie they roll a 7 and everyone cheers. So, everyone was playing the dark side? Or it was a come-out role? Going through glass. That shit is dangerous as fuck. Potential major lacerations every time. Speaking from my experience as well as 2 others. That's a lot of blood. There was a video posted with a guy probably high on something standing outside a shop. On the first watch it looks like he just throws a bunch of red paint on a window. On second watch you realize he punched the window and that was his arterial blood splatter. That video fucked me up. Dude definitely died like 5 minutes later. An absolutely insane amount of blood. Can't unsee it. Drugs. Including alcohol. Midsummer did a decent job with the mushroom trips. Guns. No, you don't flinch that much when hit by a bullet. There's the possibility that your body does not even register/process being hit by a bullet altogether. No, headshots will not make you shoot your head backwards and slowly fall down. If you catch a bullet to the head, you drop like a sack of potatoes. Nothing. Lights out. I once saw footage of a man getting shot in the face virtually point blank. He proceeded to sprint away without realizing he was actually already dying. He fell off a few meters away and slowly faded away. Really sad. My boyfriend got shot once and didn't even know he got shot at first. He was fighting though, so I assumed it was the adrenaline. Also, after repeatedly firing a pistol, you do not shove it in the waistband of your pants. The barrel is hot. I wonder how many burn scars the hero of an action movie would have on his pelvis due to that fucked up maneuver. Hacking doesn't involve furious typing. It's more like running an antivirus scan to check for what the IT department forgot to lock down, or sending a phishing email. Either way, it involves more waiting than typing. The only thing I know about hacking is that if you fail to announce I'm in, you won't succeed. That's the key. The pros take it a step further, with, and, I'm in. Also, sunglasses are optional but badass. They remove the headrests from cars in movies so you can see the actor better. The classic visual aid meme. In Psych, when they are in the Blueberry, the headrests are there if it's just Gus and Sean, but if someone is in the back they take them out for that reason. Getting shot is not a flesh wound. Things were different back then, when we still used swords. Main character gets shot in the thigh and it just causes him to limp for a few minutes. Fuck right off. Yeah, it might be a little hole on the outside. Inside has been expanded to grapefruit size and down again. Whatever muscle got hit is in shreds and literally won't function no matter how hard you try. It's not a case of fighting through the pain, it just literally won't do anything. You won't be moving that muscle or any muscle anywhere near it for a long time. Pointing at a girl in a bar and saying, "You see that girl? I'm going to marry her someday," and then somehow doing so. But it happened, my friend Barney can confirm for you. Challenge accepted. Death. We're a lot more brittle than you'd think, yet in the moments before death you might last long enough to tell your family you love them on a stranger's phone. The opposite is true too. People can take a lot of trauma. When someone is dying in your arms, their last moments are more jarring and traumatic than shown on screen. I wasn't ready for sudden gasping for air and violent spasms as their body shuts down. It's not one last breath and their eyes gently close as they drift off peacefully. Especially in kung fu/karate fights, bad guys respectfully wait for their turn to be taken out by the main guy. They never attack all together at the same time. If it's a kung fu/karate movie, for some reason all the bad guys respect the dude's skill and thus attack him in hand-to-hand combat, even if they have nothing to do with kung fu/karate themselves. No one whips out a gun and steps back to shoot at them. Greater than no one whips out a gun and steps back to shoot at them. Indiana Jones immediately sprang to mind when I read this lol. Sharks. Movies make you think they are bloodthirsty man-eaters, who kill humans for sport. Although they aren't 100% harmless, most sharks don't actually like the taste of human and will spit it out. They also often say shark-infested waters, which is like saying human-infested buildings. It pissed me off to no extent how bad they portray sharks in movies. Meanwhile, dolphins are the friendliest creatures in media, but they are actually awful in reality. Prison. Most people are just trying to do their time, and not let the time do them. There are fights, but probably no more or less than high school. You got a bunch of guys living together with no women, except for, like, nurses, so sometimes the testosterone spills over. Mostly these guys just ask for forms, paper and envelopes to write letters, or hygiene products, mostly, TP. Movies, and TV, only show you the bad shit. As far as the officers beating a guy up for stepping out of line. Can't speak for all of them, but the ones I've seen have cameras covering literally everywhere. It might happen, but if it did, the inmate would have a lawsuit and the officer would be out of a job. They'd have multiple angles of the assault on camera shown in court. Inmate jumps on you, green light, but just hauling off and hitting him because you can? No can do. Also, they outnumber staff over 10 to 1, so why do that in the first place? Besides, they're people, too. We don't give them personal information, but we do bullshit with them. Whatever sport is currently airing is a popular topic of discussion. You want to be able to talk to these guys? Pay at least minimal attention to sports. Aside from religion, it's the only language they know. They gotta live there and staff gotta work there, so you gotta find a way to get along, you gotta find common ground. This constant warfare they portray in the movies just ain't real life.